Hello, I am Galhard, here with another record, as requested by Leosin for the use of the Harpers, or anyone who has interest in what we have done along the Sword Coast. I and my band from the Grand Order had successfully defeated the goblins who had attacked the dwarf Gundren who employed us. The goblins were not a difficult fight, but we did not recover Gundren. We recovered Silden, who was a general for for Waterdeep, so many of these cities. He was grateful to be rescued, and we returned him to Phandalin, where he was supposed to be. We related to him what the situation of the town was like, how the Red Brands had so easily cowed the town, how the town's master had rolled over and licked their feet, looking the other way as they effectively ran the town. The outrage of the merchants and good people of the town was evident, and Silden was interested in this. When we arrived at Phandalin, we went straight to the master's home. Or rather, yes, he actually lived in a building next to the town hall. We went to the town hall where the records are kept. And we saw that the villagers were all demanding that the town master step down. They were outraged, and now that the Red Brands were gone, they could make their feelings properly known. The master of the town, one Toblin, was a fat and lazy man and a coward to boot. Amazing that he was elected the town master, for they elect their leaders despite any faults they may have. Truly, these Undermountainers are strange folk. This Toblin was clearly unfit for leadership. When we arrived, Silden listened to what everyone had to say, demanded an accounting of Toblin, which he was unable to give, and sent him on his way, warning him not to leave, as he may be tried as a criminal for his failure to execute his responsibilities. The people acknowledge Silden as the temporary master until they can elect a new one. I believe that if Silden does a good job, they will be happy enough with him. I don't know if there are any among the farmers who are able to do a better job. So, Silden went to it with a will. He settled us up, paid us for what we had done, routing the goblins and the Red Brands. And in gratitude he gave unto us the manor house that the Red Brands had hidden in, as there was no clear owner to the place any more. We accepted it for the Grand Order to use as a guild house, which seemed to please him greatly. He wished to see a presence of the adventuring companies in the town to make it grow and prosper. As we had established that the house was in good shape, just needing some minor work, we sent a message through our compass boxy thingies back to the guildmaster. Bryn was delighted and promised to send supplies and labor to repair the manor to a working condition and staff to run it. This is all beneath us, but it is nice to know that there is yet another place that we can use as shelter as we travel. So, we tied up loose ends there. We then needed to know where the castle was, where we could hopefully find Gundren and this king of goblins. Remembering that we had a prisoner to interrogate, we interrogated the prisoner. He seems to be very frightened of me. He does not know me very well, but we took that to our advantage. Timora gave me the leverage to basically demand to know where the castle is. He gave us a name, Phalorm, as the name of the castle. It turns out that our Healy-man is familiar with legends and lore and history and realized that Phalorm was the name of a wizard from hundreds of years ago, and that he had a castle just within the boundaries of the Neverwinter Wood to the north. So, we realized that we had a name and a general location. The new town master and our healer went through the records of the town to find evidence of where the castle might be. They were able to find it, or at least within a 5-mile span of where it is. This would be close enough. We would be able to find the castle either by sight or by following patrols from their guards. I was confident. However, Silden and some of the others recommended that we get horses and travel quicker. Apparently, we thought we'd be able to gain ground so that we could come upon them, perhaps for as little time as we've spent so far. By the time they're getting Gundren there, or maybe the goblins that had fled from us at their den would have time to go and arrive there as well. There might be some confusion, some benefit to speed. Certainly, with the life of Gundren in our hands, possibly, speed seemed ideal. One of the people who was making demands on Toblin was an elf, a person of note within Phandalin. He was known for raising excellent horses. We were advised to go to see him. We did so. The elf was a little on the older side, but clearly a seasoned adventurer. We were told that he was a ranger in his time. When we told him of our quest, he offered his services as a guide and offered to us the horses for no cost, as long as we respected them, which we were certainly willing to do. Not one of us is crass enough to abuse an animal freely given. And it turned out that the elf, whose name was Dern, is a member of another one of these groups, similar to the Hoppers, known as the Order of the Gauntlet. They are, or at least Dern considers them to be something of the branch of the Hoppers that is militant. The Hoppers go out and find trouble, and the Order of the Gauntlet is told of it and then goes to destroy or banish it. I can respect that. And though he considered himself in retirement, he was willing to go out into the field with us. When we accepted, he put on leathers and grabbed a bow, and we set off. With Dern, it was a remarkably fast journey. The horses had a trace of elvish enchantments in their blood, They were able to travel great distances. We covered the terrain in half a day. It took us to go 30 miles. Dern also proved to be useful as he showed us something of a shortcut. It was a sheltered gully, deep enough the horses could completely enter, more like a gorge or a ravine. But we were able to go in secrecy and along an almost direct route straight to the castle. It was, again, Tamora clearly shining upon us and demonstrating her favor. Also, I asked Dern if, since we were traveling to an area near an elvish wood, if the elves would be interested in our journey. I feel that it is a wise idea to gather allies when you're going into territory that you are unfamiliar with. He agreed and spoke with another ranger or a druid or something of the sort. But he summoned a hawk, fastened a message to its leg, and the hawk flew off, supposedly unerringly to his friend, and that was apparent. When we sheltered for the night at the end of our day's journey, within just a few miles of the castle, we heard elvish singing, attempting to draw out hobgoblins who apparently loathe elves, as they hate few other things, out to be ambushed repeatedly. We heard this through the night. There would be singing, and then there would be hobgoblin screams from the sounds of them. We knew that their patrols were bloodied. It sounds like after a while they retreated back to their lair. In the morning, we were prepared to set out. Dern wanted to come with us, but considering that he was, as he considered himself, retired, we thought it would be better that he would retreat back to Phandalin and alert them that there truly were goblins and hobgoblins and perhaps bugbears who were lairing in this castle just a few days' travel from the boundaries of Phandalin. So we left the safety of the gorge and traveled forward but a short distance, and we could see the castle quite clearly. The castle was in ruins of its outer walls. Really, most of what was left were towers, in a terrible state of repair. Most of these spires that clearly had risen up into the sky, the forest took it back. And all that was left were several stone buildings and what seemed to be passable defensive formations. We could see arrow slits that were clearly defended yet by goblins or hobgoblins within. Rather than charging straight at their main gates to be bottled up and riddled with arrows, we walked around the structures until we found the back of one tower that was not observed, and there was a hole in the wall that was covered with a piece of canvas and some scree. Not much of a defense. Perhaps they had hoped to use it as an escape if they were attacked, but it is the way that we entered. Once our secret finder went in, he made sure that there were none laying in ambush. We entered into the first tower. We heard the sound of hobgoblins bickering, and even more, we heard the sounds of, in another room, very similar, we heard the sounds of a King Grawl talking with someone about a delivery to be made to the spider. It seemed that we had bypassed the defenses completely of this castle. This Grawl was an idiot. As we were approaching, we were made aware, again by our secret finder, that just through a curtain, essentially, was an arch with two hobgoblins standing at the ready. Our secret finder, taking advantage of the lore that we had gained, that they hate elves, made a sound as if he'd stumbled and then cursed in Elvish. At the sound of his voice, the hobgoblins charged through the curtain. They did not last. It was not even worthy of summoning up my rage. I ended one of them with a slash from the sword and a chop from the axe that I carried. His death was swift. I claimed his sword in exchange of the one that I had had. The others hewed the remaining hobgoblin. I believe it ended its days upon a thrust from Lydia and her sword that I had discovered in the base of the manor house. She is quite the warrioress, it turns out. But we were keen to enter in and confront King Grawl. I thought it might be wise if we attempted to reason with Grawl and try to diffuse the situation without bloodshed, because I did not know the nature of our enemy. I thought it might be an option. Turns out the others are quite bloodthirsty. I can respect that. This keep creaks so. This manor house, it needs to be restored. Oh, sorry. But I believe that's the sound of... yes, it sounds like several of my allies are probably claiming rooms for themselves in here. So we burst into the room. There was King Ralm, a hobgoblin, a big one as well, with his pet, a wolf, which brought within me this revulsion on exactly what they do to these wolves to make them savage and obedient. I don't know a great deal of their kind, but I can tell when something has been abused for the welfare of another in such a way. Grolm was talking to a drow, a dark-skinned elf, who I'm told generally tend towards evil. I don't have any experience with their race, but it was clear that this one was in league with the spider, who has already set himself or herself or itself against us, trying to destabilize the lands. We are trying to put an end to it, so we held Grawl at sword point. When it was quite clear that he was not going to negotiate, we attacked. I wished to remove an ally, so I moved directly against his wolf. I don't mind saying that I wish to put it out of its misery of having to live under the command of such a creature as this Groll. So, I attacked it, and I believe our secret finder slipped up beside me and finished it. That left Groll and the drow, who did not seem to do anything, really, just standing there with the staff. We marked that it was there, but we did not attack it, or her as she appeared to be. Instead, we turned our weapons against Grawl. Grawl apparently took umbrage at me attacking his wolf and attacked me. I don't remember the attack. I was told that he hit me. I can't remember, and I don't feel anything from it, so it must not have been that good of a hit. Although, to hear it over again, I was told he took a full swing and looked rather sickly in the fact that I took absolutely no damage from his blow, but Kytheon is an honest priest, I believe, and he told me the story, what I don't remember. We laid into Grawl, injuring him. When he was sufficiently pummeled, he gave up. He dropped his sword and surrendered. My focus slipped, and I observed the wolf torn and bloody at my feet, and Grawl talking. Grawl did not mind us moving the dwarf away from the fracas, as yes, we did see Gundren beaten severely over by a table. We moved him back to to near us. Grawl started to tell us about the map of that the dwarf had, which was basically going to tell us the location to this mine that he had discovered. Well, he attempted to use the location of the map as a bargaining chip. We told him that if he did not surrender and disband, that we were going to destroy every hobgoblin, goblin, bugbear, or anybody else he had in his clan, and he would have nothing, and then we would take apart the castle a stone at a time if we had to recover this map. The drow became indignant, insisting that he dare not break his covenant with her and the spider. But we were deceived. Eventually, we realized that the drow had gone quiet, too quiet, just standing there stationary. Hammer Dwarf decided he was going to take his hammer and throw it at the drow, and it passed completely through. Simple illusion. When that happened, Kytheon looked and realized that we now had 2 secret finders. Well, clearly we were dealing with illusions and trickery. However, it is difficult to tell who is the trickster and who is not. I dared not attack. The others in my group were not so careful. Our hammer-obsessed dwarf launched a pair of hammers, only grazing his target, who, as it turned out, was actually our secret finder. However, one of us realized that one of the elves did not have a rapier, as our friend did. Well, yeah, it was fairly obvious after that. When it was pointed out who was the trickster, and they demanded that all illusions be set aside, the figure acknowledged that the illusions had to end, and dropped the illusion, appearing to be a middle-aged man. During this time, we also ended Gralm. I picked up his sword, which is actually quite nice, and turns out it works quite well, too. And that was the end of Gralm. The only complication I had was that I killed him with his own weapon, so, well, I guess I take his weapon with me as mine. Seems to be quite agreeable. It's actually a fine weapon. Oh, but, sorry, I get distracted. Yes, we killed Gralm, and when we looked at this man, we realized that we had just captured the wizard we were hunting. This was Glassstaff, also known as the Noble Yardo. The figure had left its staff behind, which we assumed was transmuted from the glass, but was probably still magical, and took him prisoner, tying him very, very securely. And I carried him. I also carried the body of Grawl. He was wearing a full suit of metal armor, plate armor they call it, impractical in the mountains, but apparently it is the clothing of war that those who don't enjoy the freedom of movement wear to protect their hide from the blows of their enemies. I can see the sparkling in the eyes of not only our hammer-obsessed dwarf, but also Kytheon also, I believe, would like this armor. He has something of a noble mane to him, and it would probably suit him. With the dwarf, it would have to be heavily adjusted, as his frame just is not even close to the tall stature of the hobgoblin. But whichever one of our group gets it, it will be an improvement to their protective abilities, which will be good. It's hard enough keeping everybody else alive if I feel I have to take all of their blows for them because they're not adequately equipped. So, there is that. So, after looting the room, which our group is very effective at, we also found out that the wizard had the map after all. Funny that. But oh, that panther is back. Down, Guinevere. But we returned back to Phandalin, retracing our route. I insisted on staying in contact with the wizard. I know enough of trickery, and that these spellcasters are not to be trusted. So even at night, though I drew the mid-watch, I slept with the wizard as my pillow. He didn't have much say in the matter. But I stayed in contact, which proved a wise move. Strange for me, I know. But in the middle of the night I was awoken to feel the form of the wizard changing. When I roused myself to my full senses, there was Lydia tied up in ropes, rather sloppily, as she's a halfling. Well, that wasn't going to go well. I was confused at first, but I had just seen an instance where two of my allies were together, and this one was still in the ropes that we had tied up our adversary. I'm not that foolish. I grabbed the fake Lydia and woke up Kytheon and said, this was Glassstaff. He discovered that this was a creature known as a doppelganger that can change its appearance. I don't like trickery. The doppelganger didn't like my method of determining if it was really a doppelganger, which is to be beaten senseless. After a good bit of punching, eventually it gave up consciousness and revealed its form, a hideous blue-skinned creature with white, pupilless eyes. Well, now that we knew the monster that we had, it was lighter and easier to carry. That didn't change very much. It made us a little less satisfied since we had not actually had this Glassstaff. But Kytheon is knowledgeable enough to know that it would not have been able to take up that form if it had never seen Glassstaff. So, we were on the right trail at least. But we were already almost to Phandalin, so we continued on, and we arrived at Phandalin. We turned the creature over to the town master, and he was impressed. He was, of course, very grateful that we had ended the menace of the goblins and hobgoblins. We were reassured and believed that the hobgoblins and goblins that had survived, we didn't go killing all of them. They said that they were only there because of Grawl, because of the orders of the spider, and that they owed no further allegiance and would disperse in their own way. The hobgoblins in particular had dreams of hunting down elves. So much more the fools them. So, Silden gave us a reward, a rather pricely sum of 500 gold pieces to our group for eliminating this threat. I'm just happy I have my new sword. But the money will come in handy for something, I am certain of it. So, we started to decide what to do next. We had a manor house that was going to be reshaped without us needing to be there. The rest of the town honored our pledge and were generally seen as local heroes now. We're on good terms with the Order of the Gauntlet with one of their members, which is a plus. The Harpers think much of us for ending this threat to the common people. So in general, to those that we would care to court, they seem to appreciate our efforts, which is good. And it's time to think of our next efforts. We have several tasks ahead of us. There are orcs that are spotted in an area too close to the town for people to feel comfortable with. And exactly what they mean for it, could it be a preparation for a horde to come through, or just a small group of orcish explorers? We're not sure. We will have to investigate that. Also, the Harpers would like us to look into a matter of trying to track down the book of a long-dead wizard. To do that, we have to treat with a banshee. An undead elf, but one that is known to offer divination to those who treat her with respect and bring an offering, which the Harpers are willing to do. And Rosaria has just such the thing for us to bring to her, so that is something that we can do for the Harpers. Many different things, but all in all, we will not be bored or idle, I assure you. In fact, I think it is time for some of the others to begin sharing their knowledges and me to start getting them into shape. Frankly, we need to work more as a unit and get stronger. Develop our skills so we can do credit to Timora. There is much work to be done, but until next time, I am Galhard, and I will see you when next adventure swings our way and I have more tales to tell. Farewell.